Schwer,
Here.
Councilmember Wong,
Here.
Councilmember Nordby,
Here.
Mayor Mungy.
Here. One second.
Did someone motion?
Yes.
Oh, second.
No, I didn't hear a motion as well.
Aye.
No, we can't start off like this.
It's been
Do we accept the agenda?
So moved, Your Honor.
We'll move Councilmember Wong,
Second.
second Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I apologize, I'm just getting my packet download. My computer did a reboot. Topics 2024 budget. I think that's you. Oh, I should probably announce you. Dan.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Yes, tonight is the official kickoff of our 2024 budget process. And in tonight, we're going to have a levy setting workshop. We need direction from you. So Brian and myself, our goal is to get you as well informed on the budget as possible. So we're going to, tonight, I'm gonna kind of walk you through where we're at right now with the 2023 budget, what we've accomplished in the last couple of years, and then kind of talk about what are some of the driving factors heading into the 2024 budget preparation. And then we will have some activities. Councilmember Cole knows that I actually take the workshop seriously. Since it's a workshop, I'm gonna put you to work. No, the real reason is to find out some information from you so we can supply better documentation as we go through the budget process. I think you're all aware by September 30th, we need to certify our maximum levy to the county. We usually do that in about the first meeting in September. So, and the levy portion of our budget includes the general operations of the city, the debt levy, they're combined as far as known as the city's levy, and then there's the HRA levy and the EDA levy. Those have to be certified as a maximum by the end of September. Our internal service funds, our enterprise funds, and so forth, those budgets can continue in the year, and everything gets ultimately approved in December. So with that, I'm just gonna kind of walk you through where we're at. And the purpose of tonight is to provide an opportunity for the city council to discuss and set the 2024 levy target. The items for consideration is the starting point, our 2023 budget and city-based property tax levy. The driving factors for 2024 are preliminary evaluation changes, the HRA and EDA property tax levy, and then a budget calendar. So the starting point of 2023, this is kind of where we're at right now, and these are the general fund highlights. Our revenues are comprised of property taxes comprise 56% of our revenues that we get in the general fund. Intergovernmental is 18%. That's primarily made up of the local government aid. And then there's other financing sources or transfers, 9%, which are coming from our enterprise funds and our HRA and EDA. Expenditures, the composition by categories is our personnel and benefits comprise 63% of our general fund budget, professional services 28%, and supplies 5%. Expenditures by department, our police makes up 42%, our fire and code enforcement make up 14%, our street maintenance makes up 14%. And as you can see, in 2023, our levy in the general fund was increased approximately 12.6%, and in the past 14 years, we've averaged 5.8% levy increase. As you can see by this, that our biggest components are our staff. We have a heavy reliance on property taxes, and we have a heavy reliance on other intergovernmental funding sources. Property taxes and intergovernmental funding sources amount to 74% of our revenue streams, where you see our personnel and benefits represent 63%. Our public safety, which is a combination of our police and fire and code enforcement, alone is 56% of our general fund. This will kind of show you, just in a graphic form, those same revenues by categories. Again, the biggest piece of that pie is the ad valorem taxes or property taxes. So the biggest burden on the revenue side goes to our residents. Again, expenditures by category on a graph form shows the biggest piece of the pie is our personnel costs. And by departments, you can see police is by far the biggest piece of the pie, followed by fire and code enforcement, and then by street maintenance. You can see that the rest of the departments that are in the general fund in total are pale in comparison to those three in total composition. You're looking at about 70% of it is either in street, fire and code enforcement, or police. This is my third budget. I don't want to be known as the finance director that keeps increasing the levy all the way through. But this is what has happened in the increase from 2021 to 2023. As you can see, the city has done an excellent job. The credit goes to the city council. They have thrown a lot of funds towards the police department. In those 2 years, the police department from 2021 to 2023 has gone up approximately $726,000. You see, followed by building inspections. That's part of when you look at building inspections. It's the permitting part to it. It's also offset by revenue. So that's kind of a little misleading kind of component to it. If we reduce our expenditures and the building inspections, we also have to reduce our revenue streams. So for the majority, right now how the contract reads, for the majority of permitting, we retain about 90% of the total cost as a revenue stream. The rest of it's an expenditure. If it's an electrical inspection, we retain 20% and 80% goes to the vendor that we utilize. You can see that building inspection or fire has gone up approximately $165,000, street maintenance $205,000. The biggest reason why these increases was last year when we went through the budget and the kickoff, there were two primary areas of concentration that the city council spoke of. One was staffing. When the city went from the year 2020 to 2021, there were 4 staff reductions at that point to get to a 0% levy. The city decided to do that 0% levy from 2020 to 2021, primarily because of COVID. So they took the residents in consideration, and they said, hey, we don't know what this is going to be like. And obviously, when we start the budget in June and we have to have the general fund done by September, we don't know what that impact is. And if everybody remembers, shelter-in-place was imposed, I think, in March of 2020. So, so in the past 2 years, the city has invested quite a bit in staffing. And I think we've done an excellent job. What I'm saying is that I think we need to live with that staffing level for a while. I think we need to see what those results are and how it moves the needle as far as our services that we're providing. The other part of those two components that were given to us as main focuses was infrastructure. If you remember last year, that part of the option of increasing the general fund to 12.6 was also to eliminate our HRA levy, which then had an overall impact of about approximately 8.5% to the residents. Part of the reason of maintaining a higher general fund rate that goes on to the property taxes itself is because the city of North St. Paul ranks number 17 amongst all of the cities as a fiscal disparities recipient. In other words, we're considered a winner. So how the fiscal disparities pool works is that it was adopted in 1971. It took your commercial value of your property at that point in time. It's administered through the metro area. Part of the principle behind it is that no local jurisdiction has a say on where a highway or a roadway is going to go, which could spur on some commercial development. So there should be some sort of sharing amongst all of the participants, all of the cities that are there. Because we have a very low commercial base, that our fiscal contribution is very small, the distribution is very high. When the distribution comes in, it's a market value, and then it's multiplied by the prior year's tax rate, and that generates into real dollars. So last year, we got approximately $1.2 million from fiscal disparities. So whatever we levy gets reduced by that 1.2 as it's passed on to the property tax payers, the residents of the city of North St. Paul. So that's a big factor that we need to realize. If we don't keep up our rate with the increasing, and the bigger factor is with the increasing of market values, our rate will go down, and then it can have an impact. It's one of the potential impacts that it could have on lowering the amount of fiscal disparity dollars that we'll get in the subsequent year, which then means if you hold everything else constant, that will actually have a higher impact on our taxpayers when they get their tax bills. So that's a consideration that we've worked on the past 2 years, and I think we've done a very good job as far as that. The numbers aren't in yet. Fiscal disparity numbers don't become final until August. We haven't seen even the preliminary net tax capacity numbers from the county yet, but hopefully by July we'll start to get that and we'll start to see where we're at. But we do have preliminary values, which I'll share with you in a little bit. Yes, Mayor.
Question on that one statement you just said before. So it's like if you don't spend, then you're going to be even maybe more because you're not going to get as much back from the government, from the state.
Yeah.
So there could be a holding us accountable as far as fiscally, but that means less from what's coming back.
Right. It doesn't come from the state. It comes from all of the cities,
Yeah,
contribute
sorry.
a portion of, above their base.
Yeah.
Into this pool. So what ends up happening is that in the subsequent year, if your rates have dropped, that's one of the factors. Also, the other part of the factor is the growth in commercial and the market values that are adjusted in there. But holding everything else constant, that if we were to, our rate were to drop very low, and we got the same distribution value, in other words, the same type of growth across the metro area as far as the commercial and industrial properties, then because our rate dropped, we would end up getting a lower value that ends up reducing our levy, which ends up getting passed on to the taxpayer. So yes, they do end up with an impact because of that. The number one recipient of fiscal disparities is the city of St. Paul. And we rank the 17th out of there, so we're in the top 20 and is considered a winner. So that's a part of our equation as we go through things, and we'll get into more detail further down in our budget discussions. That won't happen tonight, but I just want to make everybody aware because in the past 2 years, we've been very conscientious about that fact. In the first year that I was here, we actually went out and refunded some debt that was on a market value basis and moved it over to tax capacity. That ended up helping us raise our rate without having an impact on the increasing of the levy at all. It actually reduced the levy, but it also further reduced the impact that it would have on our residents of the city of North St. Paul. Just kind of a comparison, I had just mentioned that, the city in the past 2 years has really put a lot of money towards public safety. I can't answer what's enough and what's not enough, but wanted to do kind of a comparison to see how we're doing public safety compared to other cities in the state of Minnesota that are roughly our size. And you can see a lot of highlights that are there. In each one of the columns, the highlighted are the top 5. So in population, you can see that we're not one of the top 5. In general fund budget, we're not one of the top 5. But as far as a police budget and a fire budget, the two components that make up our total public safety and our total public safety, we are in the top 5 in cities that are comparable to our size. When you compare the public safety total budget to the general fund budget as a percentage, there's where that 56% that I showed in the other graph, we are the highest. So kind of looking at some of the components to that, I look at, we have both in-house police and fire. Some cities, even in Ramsey County, that are our size, have done a little different, makeup. As you can see, the city of Vadnais Heights, that has a population a little bit higher than ours, they contract out their police force. They don't have, their own police department. If you look at the city of Mounds View has their own police department, yet their fire department is through a joint powers agreement that is shared between Blaine, Spring Lake Park, and Mounds View. I think those are only the 3 entities that are a part of that. And then you can look at Little Canada that has a contracted police, and you see their fire is significantly less than ours. I'm bringing this to your attention not to say that that's what we should be doing. It's food for thought. Today's kind of we're going to have some activities where we're going to brainstorm. I'm showing you we got a heavy reliance on property taxes. We got a heavy reliance on the intergovernmental. We're making over 70% of our revenue. What choices do we have in generating revenue? The other side of the equation is reducing expenditures. Some of that, at some point in time, are going to become some very difficult decisions to make. They're not my decisions, they're your decisions. And that's part of the theme that Brian and I are trying to pass and message that we're trying to give through this budget, is that we want to put you in a position to make sure that you're as well informed of everything, that you can make the best decision for the city as possible, and I know you will. And so that's really what this slide is, because I was kind of curious to how some of the other cities were as a makeup, and were they all facing that higher percentage in public safety as we were. Yes.
If you go back to that other slide, the slide we were just on,
Yep. Yes, sir.
do any of those townships or cities, do they have their own additional sales tax, and would that be included in this?
That's a very good question. I can't answer that, but definitely we'll look at that, and absolutely no, you're hitting a point where their sales tax could be a revenue source. So I see. This is what I love about this kickoff. The rest of it kind of gets tougher, but this kickoff, because we start to ask and any comments that you make, then it gives me food for thought and things that we need to research. So we can look at seeing and putting some information together for you for cities that are comparable to our size that do have a sales tax. And we can bring that information back to you. So very good question. Thank you.
Would you agree that if a city on here does have a sales tax, it could possibly skew these results?
No.
Okay.
because their general fund budget would be their general fund. It's just that their reliance on property taxes and other revenue sources would be a less percentage than it is for ours.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question or a request. As you go through looking for comparable cities, do you mind also looking at like regional, the ones closest to us as well, even though they're not the same size? I'm just thinking in terms of sales tax, for example, where a small community, probably more people spend money here than, other places, and most people would come here for different services as well, more than our population.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Absolutely. The next slide shows you our levy, and it kind of shows you it from 2009 all the way to the current of 2023. And you can see for a number of years from 2010 to 2014, 2015, it was relatively flat. You can see it's been a steep incline. It was, again, flat for the 20 to 2021. That was when the city made the decision to do a 0% levy. And then there's been a significantly and a sharp increase in 2022 and 2023. Overall, when you take an average of all those years, it comes up to approximately about a 5.8% average annual levy increase. Again, the levy is made up of two components. One's debt, and the other one is just for the general operations of the city. Some of the driving factors for this upcoming budget in 2024, based upon our current staffing levels and the union contracts, that our total personnel costs in the general fund, because we're focusing on just general fund, not all the rest of the enterprises at this point in time, has gone approximately $322,000 or 4.9% levy increase. Existing personnel benefits went up to $223,000 or 3.4% levy increase. We have already made the transition from a contracted communications coordinator to a city staff. That had an increase in our personnel costs of approximately $77,000, but we have a reduction in our contractual services of $62,000. So that delta of about $14,000 is about a 0.2% levy increase. And then there's been a switch back now to 2 part-time community service officers in the police department, replacing the 1 full-time, and that's an increase of approximately $22,000 or 0.3 levy increase. Our debt levy increase this year has increased approximately $76,000, and that's because we're, for the first time, having to, well, we've actually, this is the 3rd year, this is the first year we actually have to levy for it. It's the debt that was issued for all of the work over around the Centennial area for the roads and such. And that's a 1.2% levy increase. Good news that local government aid in this last legislative session, we will receive $84,000 more, so that'll decrease our levy 1.3%. Unfortunately, it quickly gets offset by Metro INET. Metro INET's total charges are increasing approximately $52,500. This is the 2nd consecutive year that we've seen some really big increases in Metro INET. We will be having meetings coming up in the next few weeks with Metro INET. They've been very open, and so we'll have that discussion. Probably the biggest driver, and Brian, jump in if I misquote this at this point in time, one of the mechanisms in which they use to charge, or they use as a measurement to come up with their rates, and they charge their customers, is the number of users on the system. In other words, if you have an email address, you're a user. The city made a big change this past year in trying to get all of our commission members emails. So that was one of the bigger driving factors. And in addition, well, of course, their costs went up. In addition, they lost a couple of cities that are part of the JPA for the Metro INET. So with that combination, we're seeing a bigger share. If we would not have had that increase to our commission members on emails, it would not have been as high as this, but still we would have seen another increase onto that.
At 51, what % is that of an increase?
It's a 0.8% levy increase.
Oh, sorry, down there. I didn't see it. Blocking it.
Dan, point of clarity, what are you using for a levy point? 60,000, 65,000?
70, about
70?
70, yeah, that's where we're at.
I tried to do the math in her head, so I thought I'd ask it easier. Thank you.
And then CIP and infrastructure are going to be some big driving forces. Yes, sir.
That wasn't quite the question. I was asked about what is the % that they're charging us? How much did that go up? Is what I was asking.
Oh, the percent that they,
'Cause I keep, because you said an increase
sure,
of
sure, sure.
51,000, then
Oh,
there was a
yep.
big increase. I mean,
Yep.
what % increase have we been having? Because I'm in the technology department for my
that
real
was-
job.
that resulted in a 19% increase from our 2023.
And there was an increase that was almost that big, you think? the
I
year
think it was
before.
20% last year,
So that's 49%,
39.
39%, sorry, yeah.
Multiplied probably get you to low 41% compounded. Yeah,
All right, thank you.
yeah, significant.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you speak to the percentage of, rough percentage of how much it costs to have those emails? Just so I can kind of understand the 51,000.
I can't
Breakdown,
tonight,
okay.
but I definitely will supply that information, kind of a breakdown. That's why we've got part of a meeting with them to kind of get a better understanding of how they're coming up with their rates, their charges, and to get at that information, and that will be something that we will share back.
One
Thank you.
question. Did I, in the last raise of the 20%, wasn't that right at where we could have decided to go somewhere else? Was that this company was that one meeting I was at?
No, what you were is health insurance.
Oh, health, I'm sorry, thank you, yeah,
with
that's
Pete.
what, I knew there was something that got bumped right away to that level, and I thought maybe that was that 20%. Thanks.
Dan, if you don't
Yes,
mind. So do you want to explain why there was a big increase last year with the INET and how they went independent from being under the city of Roseville?
Yeah, last year, up to last year, they really have been, I call it more of a quasi City of Roseville department. They've now broken away in their own entity. So every city that's a part of it had to sign on to a JPA, Joint Powers Agreement. And they hired a CIO. They're restructuring how things have been done, and there was a lot of positions, from what they've said, that were doing dual roles. Some were doing 3 different jobs, so they've hired a number, I think last year was like 9 FTEs that they ended up hiring. In addition to that, they didn't have any fund balance for replacement of equipment for their infrastructure, so they ended up coming up with a couple of different models to start to build up that fund balance, to make sure that they're an ongoing concern. They had 3 options, A, B, C. They ended up at the end of the day choosing option B, which was approximately a 20% increase. The highest end of the option was a 30% increase, and so it got reduced somewhat. But I think in our conversations, basically we were anticipating, from what they were saying, that with their increases in contracts and from their vendors, that there would have been more like about a 10% increase this year. So we were shocked to see it increase 19% after a 20% increase. And again, that's the reason why we're going to have a meeting and work through that and find out where we're at. Also, you know, it may be a time to look at, is there certain ways that we can break some of the services that are being provided by Metro INET, and contracting with somebody else for them, and trying to reduce costs. And so that's one of our options. I get to write that one up there as a brainstorming option when we get into our activities later on. But yeah, we need to look at everything. And so that is one of the options that we need.
I think there'd be a difference between an email address and a whole Microsoft suite license. So to me, that's you're adding licenses that are, people don't use except for an email.
And they are looking at, and they haven't started it, but they're looking at maybe coming up with different methodology in which they do charge their charges. And so that may be a suggestion in the future of how they go about it. Would that create a significant reduction for us? Definitely would create some reduction. I can't tell you if what we're paying is in line with what we would find from an outside vendor. Some cities have broken out parts of the services, not all. So, and from our discussions with Metro INET, they're very much open to it. They're not saying nope, it's all or nothing. So they're willing to work with us and help us get to that next point. And for us, it's all about, we got to try to be able to reduce our costs.
We're able to do that, there's no contract right now as far as that? Are we in the middle of a contract with them?
I would say there has to be probably a 1 year out after they set their budget, but I'm not 100% sure. Do you remember what the JPA says, Brian?
I don't off the top of my head, we'll have to look into
We'll
that.
look in that, yep.
Thank you.
And then CIP, our infrastructure, our capital improvement plan. And we'll be getting to that in our next meeting in July. I am really happy to announce, and I left them downstairs. Can you believe that? Could you please? Yes. Yeah, there's some, yeah, if you can find them on my desk. That's no small task. I know you were gonna say that.
Send out a search party.
So in our CIP, I honestly believe that the CIP is very, very important, because it really is about your planning. It's about your vision for the city in the future. When I came here, there really wasn't a comprehensive capital improvement plan. It was more just on the road reconstruction plan, which has to be done every 6 years for bonding purposes. So we've done a very good job of instituting, and it takes a lot of work from all of our department heads to put this all together. It was built in an Excel spreadsheet. Hard to read, not a lot of description, which isn't that good for you to have an understanding of what the needs in the city are. So for $1,600, we bought a new piece of software that we're using, and I just wanted to show you a couple of reports that come off of that system. And one of them is every project will have a description and justification that you'll be able to see. And again, it's part of that mission that Brian and I have for this year, is to get you as well informed as possible so you can make the best decision for the city. I'm actually excited. Our new addition to the finance department is the one who had some experience with the software that we chose to use. And I think it's very, very beneficial. And hopefully, if you want to hold off on that one for a second, that one there, but that other one there. So you can see it's still in a draft form, but kind of excited about that, so we can see that. But obviously, your infrastructure is a big part of your budget, because there's so much capital. That's what ties into your debt and your ability to keep moving forward. So the items that are identified up above come to about $364,000, which is a 5.6% levy increase. Kind of a summary of the debt levy, we kind of talked about that, you know, it's increasing 75,000. Again, you can see it's from the 2020A tax increment bonds. Again, I'm trying to frame this so we're all fully aware. Last year at the Truth and Taxation meeting, we had a resident come here and had said, hey, you know, what about our debt? And they had asked about the bonds that were issued for the city public works facility and said, oh, well, that ought to be, you know, coming to an end soon. And the answer was yes, it will be. The final pay year will be in 2025. In this 2024 is when we stop levying for it. I didn't have the heart to say the rest of the story, and the rest of the story is, yeah, it's going away, but it's going to be replaced by other debt if we're going to be able to maintain our infrastructure. And that's where that CIP becomes so important, because that's really where City Council has to identify where the priorities are and trying to minimize the impact that it has on the residents of the city of North St. Paul. Preliminary valuations. Here's some good news finally, that the market values are continuing to increase. And the market values again are as of January 2nd of 2023 that we use for payable year 2024. It's the fourth highest total market value increase in 11 years. It's an increase across all property segments, and it's the third highest median residential market value increase in 10 years. And so as you can see, our median value home increases from $273,900 to $299,000, which represents an 8.1% increase. You can see our overall estimated market value has also increased, and that represents a 9.1% increase in market value. So again, we're seeing big market value increases. Last year, if you recall, we had about a 15.5% market value increase. This right here, this slide just kind of shows you the number of parcels that were in 22, parcels in 23, and then the change, and then the median value change. And you can see all of the segments, except for apartments, have increased. The HRA and the EDA levy, right now, you know, the thought is proposing to keep them the same as they were in 2023, with the HRA not having a levy, and the EDA being the same amount that we levied last year of approximately $201,000. The budget calendar, as of to date, all preliminary budgets have been submitted by department heads. All department heads have met with the city manager, myself, and Mary Kay. We are working on the second part, if you want to pass that other part to it. Again, I hate to keep saying this over again, but this is our theme this year, to keep you as well informed as possible so you make the best decision. We are going to have, when our department heads come up for their presentations, they'll be doing their presentations on their budget, and they'll be doing their presentations on the CIP. And that bit of information will be their narrative about their budget with some statistical information. So they are right now in the process of filling that out and completing that, as well as we're wrapping up the CIP, and we will have a department head meeting to review all of the CIP, and Brian will make the final decision on what's on the CIP when it gets presented to you in our next budget meeting. And as you can see again, right now I'm kind of targeting September 5th for the adoption of the preliminary 2024 property tax levy. Again, When we adopt the property tax levy, it's the maximum. That means it can't go up from that point in time, but it certainly can go down. So, I mean, there can still be discussions all the way through to the time that we approve it in December. Again, we are required to have a truth and taxation hearing, and that usually is, the notifications usually go out, and you have to hold them towards the end of November, early December. We have in the past had it on the first Tuesday in December, and then I think we'll have it then, and then the following 2 weeks, we'll have the actual approval of the levy itself. So, that's the first part, and I got to do a lot of talking. And so I'm going to throw it out if there's any questions for clarification at this point before we move on to the second part of our discussion tonight.
Dan, you call out a potential of I gotta scroll to the top, 12.3% levy increase. And that's kind of with everybody's wishes and desires in, is that what it's rolling to?
We have not gotten to that point yet. That 12.6 was what we did in 2023, this year.
Okay. We were up that much?
Well, but we didn't levy anything for the HRA, so the overall total levy was 8.5%.
Okay, that's the number I remember, okay.
That's the number, yep.
And so before we put anything on top, we're already at,
About 5.5,
5.5.
5.6.
okay. And that's just to maintain?
That's just
Okay.
to maintain right now at this point in time. And there's still things that can change. These are, preliminary numbers, but yes, of what we have so far, and where the meetings with the city manager, that's where we're at right now.
Early guidance from surrounding communities?
I've had just, but I've had some preliminary conversations, and a few of them are somewhere in the target of 6-7%.
Okay.
More to come on that.
Okay.
So, all right.
When you're talking numbers, just so we're all on the same page, when we levy, we pick a certain dollar amount, and every percentage you're giving us is a change of that dollar amount from last year, correct?
Correct.
What was the dollar amount from last year?
Good question. Of the overall levy, I think it would have had to been somewhere about, I was going to say 6.9 million total debt, and I think that's where the 70,000 comes up from. I don't think so. Yes, it is. The total levy was 6.5 million. Approximately 5.2 was general operations, and 1.4 was debt. It's on page 10.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, now I need your help. All right.
Put us in, Coach.
No more levies. No more levies.
This is going to be a tough.
Yes. Ooh. Cordless.
Oh,
We're getting fancy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can hear you now.
This is going to be a tough crowd if I'm already hearing a chant, no more levy, no more levy. I mean, this is going to be tough. But if that's what you decide, that's what you decide. Because remember, this is your budget at the end of the day. So your first activity today is council activity, a little brainstorming. I'm supposed to move this over a tad bit. We can. Okay.
faced with many infrastructural needs and rising costs. What do we do to maximize our resources and minimize the overall impact to the residents of the city? So I'll start off, and, because we've already heard it, it's really to review our IT.
Is that microphone on top there? I might be catching that one. Lights off.
Fix it, Dan.
All right. Review IT. Good start.
I'm not gonna pick on anybody right away.
Review insurance.
Yes. Being the first one?
Usually I have to go after
Yeah.
Tim after a while.
Do they still make Mr. Yuck?
Mr. Yuck, yeah. When I was talking to other cities, one of the big things that they asked was about with the fire department, because we still have volunteers and everybody's been going to full-time. And I don't know where we're at with the fire department as far as budgeting and things like that. Is that something we have to be concerned about? I don't know where that fit in there. Just to understand the fire department's needs, because as I was looking down, we see some big purchases for some fire department equipment. And every town around us has gone to full-time fire departments now because they can't find volunteers. Does that make sense? So we have to see where we're at for our budget, because we're gonna spend money on, we have to understand, because we have a couple big ticket items coming up for the fire department.
Yeah, when you look at the CAP, yes.
Where we're sitting at that, because do we have to make changes like everybody else in towns or smaller towns where we still get enough of our volunteers and everything else? So that's just something to talk about.
Well, again, I'm not advocating one way or the other. I look at everything with two sides of the coin.
Yep.
And the way I look at it, it's with the fire and the police. We're hearing the difficulty in getting people into the public service, public safety arena. I don't dispute any of that, tough environment. Just shows you there's some other cities that are right here in Ramsey County that have gone a different route with it. And they've contracted, and they end up contracting with Ramsey County Sheriff's Department. You could save money by contracting your police services with Ramsey County. You probably could, and our police chief didn't balk at it when I threw it in his budget hearing. You probably could save $1.5 million by doing that. Is it the same level of service? I have no idea. Is it a desire from the city? I have no idea. I'm just throwing out, thoughts and ideas and so forth. But the double-edged side to it is if we're having such a difficulty in getting and retaining police force, why do we keep having this problem if our costs are keep going up higher and higher to the point that we're hitting our residents? So it's worth a discussion. I'm not heading in a direction. I'm just saying it's worth a discussion when we're sitting at the end of the day, and in the past 2 years, we've had a 6% levy increase and a 12.6 on our general fund components to get where we're at. We see that we had $726,000 worth of an increase in expenditures in our police department. My question is, where does it end and how does it end? The preliminary ask from our police chief in this past go-around, the preliminary, which is not included in any of our numbers at this point in time, but it'll be something that you'll have a discussion, was for some additional FTEs. It came to the tune of $500,000. There's 7% levy increase right there, just for that alone. How do you keep affording that? That's the balancing act, and that's part of this activity, is how do we look at it? And to me, I look at it from the standpoint is nothing should be off the table. At the end of the day, after you have a discussion, you may not decide to do something. That's your decision.
Being the first time for me in the budget committee, meetings and things like that, I want to make sure everything is on the table. Either you prove it's a good resource of money, or, vet it out either direction.
That's, yes.
That's what I want. I don't want anybody to, we can't talk about that. I want it to, oh, wow, we're lucky to have this and we're willing to pay that. And you understand what else is out there and you understand what value you're getting. It's easier than just to not talk about it and everybody just sweeps it under the rug and then it becomes this big expense that nobody talks about. So I hope we can just
Mayor Van,
bring it out there.
fantastic and well put, and that's exactly my kind of, you can look at it from both sides of the coin, but you should be looking at it.
Exactly.
So-
Avoiding it doesn't get rid of it.
Right. So I, by the same token as I'm gonna put down here, police department review. And again, you're absolutely right, and that's part of the reason why that other document, the second document that went around, is that normally you have not seen that statistical information, and the meetings with the department heads should be focused on, and I look at it as, without putting in performance measurements, in the city, is how did you move the needle? In 2 years, you got $726,000. How did that equate to a better public safety for the residents of the city of North St. Paul? If you can't answer that question, then we got a little bit of trouble. And so that's really the drive that Brian and I are telling the department heads, that you need to be able to talk about how we're moving the needle. And that's part of,
It's very important because talking about it doesn't mean you're against something.
absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. I don't get me wrong.
Yep, 100%. That's what I'm agreeing. We bring it out, we prove good, bad, and then we work our way.
Exactly. Councilmember Juan.
Yeah, I was thinking about also perhaps looking at a review or cost benefit of
Contractors and consultants versus in-house.
Or vice versa, correct?
Sure, yeah.
That would contract in today, you may decide to go in-house, something that's in-house, you may. Yeah, the backward.
Outhouse?
Outside-
Sure.
Outhouse. Very good.
If I could
Oh, she's
also,
on a roll now.
Yep, that's good.
if I could also add perhaps looking at grants, whether it be federal, state, or otherwise.
Many grants that are given, and there was one that was passed by the legislation this past year, where there's public, not a grant, but public safety dollars. So the city's gonna be receiving $542,000 worth of funds that need to be used for public safety. Now, right away, you can look at it and say, all right, I got $542,000 to spend on whatever I want. The bottom line is, the city is already paying quite a bit in public safety components. I'm not talking about staffing, I'm talking about what's on the CIP. Replacement of vehicles, bulletproof vests. We got some big expenditures on the fire department coming up.
Yep.
That's where your $542,000 should really be, when we're looking at where we're at today, should be on things that are already existing in our CIP plan to maybe help us be able to afford the things that are coming without putting all that burden on the taxpayers again. Instead of coming up with new ideas and new concepts. Every time you come up with a new concept, a new idea, whatever that useful life is, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years down the road, you gotta replace it. The money's not gonna be there. Now the city has that burden of replacing that to keep that part moving forward. So, something to keep in mind, but yes, grants. We've already been looking at for the Emerald Ash Borer. They've increased money again for that, so we're gonna be applying for that later this year for that. Councilmember Cole.
A little out of the box, just because I'm not familiar with it. Planned obsolescence of city vehicles, city equipment. I'm assuming there's some type of magical accounting that takes place to determine every 5 years, every 10 years. Is there a way to look at that? I mean, when we get rid of a vehicle, is it done? Or are we replacing it because we have budgeted to replace it, and I'm gonna hypothetically say 5 years?
That's a very good question. I think a lot of it is based upon the estimated useful life. You know, we saw a change when we saw, and I'm not picking on anybody, don't get, but we saw a change when it came into the desire of a different police chief. At one point in time, they had vehicles at a 7-year replacement, and his preference was 5 years. 5 years is acceptable in many organizations in the police force. But does it have to be? If you were to go back to that 7, do the calculation.
What does
multiply
that
it out
do?
for another yeah, exactly. And so, yes, we do have to have, you know, kind of a review of the useful lives.
Because 7 years for maybe a Ramsey County sheriff is much different than 7 years for North St. Paul 3 by 3 square miles.
Absolutely.
Does a balanced budget account for the cost of life expectancy? If this building's life expectancy is 30 years, and we are required to have a balanced budget, do we put a 30th of this building aside every year? How, and kind of back to the obsolescence of vehicles, if a vehicle is 7 years, do we put a seventh of each vehicle? What does a balanced budget mean in that?
That's a very good question. We're not quite there as far as putting funds aside to replace all of the vehicles. Definitely not the facilities. The facilities is probably the weakest area. But our equipment fund, where all the vehicles are being replaced from in the general fund, does have enough money to go all the way through for the next 10 years. It needs to be ratcheted up a little bit to accomplish exactly what you're saying. So in the budgets, so our equipment fund, our insurance fund, our technology fund, our building maintenance fund, and then we have a mechanic fund. But those 5 funds are internal service funds, so their costs are budgeted there, and then they're allocated out to the other departments. So if you look at any budget, you'll see that there could be, you know, there'll be an IT charge that's based on an allocation. Usually it's on FTEs, for the sake of a better way to distribute it. Equipment is usually looking at it over a length of time, at least 10 years, and then having that allocation being in that budget, so they are contributing. And so then there's quarterly, basically payments that are made from those into that internal service fund. So they are included in the budgets themselves. So we're trying to get to the point where the true cost of that program is really reflected in one place. When you look at that budget, it has all of the costs there. So, good question. Councilmember Wong.
Sales tax,
How could I forget that one?
right? It's so popular.
I want to bring up one, this is going to be a point of contention, but now that marijuana is becoming legal, that tax, that sales, I know it's tied to cities at times. It's sitting in my head, I can't.
Yeah, so my understanding is that cities
you.
will receive 20%
Yes.
of sales. However, local jurisdictions can't add additional taxes.
Can or cannot?
They cannot.
They cannot.
They cannot. It's set at 10%, and there's a lot of debate on why that is.
Okay, you opened it up.
I did, sorry.
No.
It's the reality of it.
No, I'm gonna go a step further.
Okay.
Well, what about the city being a cannabis distribution place to generate revenue? I know, controversial. I'm not gonna disagree with it. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying it's worth a conversation at some point in time.
I don't disagree.
You know, it was in the news quite a bit during the COVID timeframe. Cities that had gotten in when their population was less than 10,000 that opened up municipal liquor stores made a killing during the COVID time period. And they do a very good job outside of the COVID time period, but it's a revenue source. Again, look at those percentages that are sitting out there that were dependent on property taxes. It's a revenue source. So, in 2020, a lot of cities looking around and saying, kick themselves, why did we get into it? It was controversial back then. I'm not saying yes or no. Actually, I threw this out to our chief of police, and you know what he told me? He said, I'd support it. I could control it then.
I mean, I'd love to see a whole workshop on it, just,
Yeah.
because it's all new. It's new to, I'd love to have a workshop on it to talk through it, because it is a revenue source. And to your point, the percent of commercial versus percent of residential in the city of North St. Paul is way skewed heavier to the residents than to the commercial side, just based on where we are. And, you know, I've always been on board with what can we do to shift it off the residents and find someplace else to go. You know, I think we threw out last year parking meters, or it's just some random ideas that were somewhat comical more than actual, but it's another source.
That was mine.
Then it was the greatest idea I ever heard.
That's how Minneapolis pays for it.
You know, and you did say that at the time you threw that out last year, too. Greatest idea I've ever heard.
Way to go, Lisa.
You had mentioned municipals. Am I correct that because our population is over $10,000, that is off the table?
For a liquor store?
Yeah.
I have a correction. I think I said local jurisdictions cannot tax cannabis. They can if it's coupled with something else, but not
Part of the overall
standalone.
If it's part of your old sales tax generation, then, right?
That's my understanding, so.
There can't be a separate one just on,
Cannabis.
so it really covers underneath this here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything in place for your departments? If the bill is a yearly $5,000, you must get a competing quote every 5 years. If the bill's every, and I'm just throwing numbers, 50,000, you must get a quote every 2 years, scaling up quotes for costs.
So the purchasing policy itself states in there that, everything, I think above $2,000, it's encouraged that you get 2 quotes, if possible. There's a part of the statute that basically says, one of your very first looks after you go up above $25,000, and the statute says you really should look at the Minnesota State contract list to see if there's a contracting purchasing power of master contracts. You need to first consider them, but you don't have to use them. Anything over $175,000 needs to have a formal bid process. So, yes, but, doesn't mean, I look at this this one here a little bit differently, because we do have some big contracts. Some that come to mind are, we've got a law, we got 2 law contracts, one for here, that's over city council. We've got another one that's, police. There's, our engineering, there's our inspections. Those are some bigger dollar contracts, that definitely could be looked at as
That's the hardest for a city our size, because every single city has to have the same thing, but when it's this size, it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, we only have 12,000, well, we gotta have the lawyers, we gotta have the law enforcement, we gotta have everything. Like when I build a phone system for somebody, say, well, how come it's not much difference, you know, from going from 25 to 50 users, because it's just adding a person. Same thing with this, we have to build this whole entire infrastructure for 12,000 that might go to 30,000 for the infrastructure we have to have. So that's where it becomes, you know, we're too small to be big and too big to be small, is how I refer to it as.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But I think the point that Councilmember Nordby is saying is that, are we running some sort of competitive process from time to time to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck?
Yes, and it's a great,
And that's, to me, the big
Yes.
walk away from.
everything should be looked at for that type of thing, yeah, I agree.
All right,
Was there,
now we're gonna move on.
okay, we're moving on. One quick question, if you don't, is there anything on this list that the two members that were here for the last budget doesn't see on there that thinks, is there anything that jumps out at you?
I just went back, I tried to look through my notes from last year, and I didn't run parallel notes from with what we talked through last year.
Okay.
Did you see anything?
Parking.
Parking.
Yes.
Oh, Post-it notes.
Should we make 1,000? I fed you.
Yes, you did. You
I didn't
earned
need
it.
enough for a whole book of notepads.
No. So if you could take a moment and write down what you see as the city's highest priorities for the 2024 budget.
How specific or general are you looking?
I think we can drill down if it's too general.
You don't get to play? You choose, your opinion doesn't matter?
Are we almost ready to share? This is where I start to pick on people. Councilmember Cole,
Yes, sir.
what do you have?
I have roads, completion of the downtown improvement project, and ensure that we have adequate staffing.
May I have your? Thank you very much. Who would like to volunteer for being the second?
I liked it better when I sat down where Councilmember Norby is, I'm just saying.
It's a nice seat.
I can go next. It's not super long, but I have roads, and then I also have just the overall total compensation plan for employees.
Very good. I think mine's going down.
Yours is the first.
Brian's is right there with you.
We're stopping these, Brian.
Workshop's done now.
Yeah, it's all done. Give me that pizza back. Councilmember Wong?
Sure. The community center, start thinking about that, and staffing around that, or what that might look like. Parks and Rec, a master plan. I think that, our discussions this year warranted that. Instead of just roads, looking at like an entire transportation plan, including sidewalks. From my understanding at the retreat, that was a big topic. Including sidewalks and bike lanes. And then I said the internet, so Metro INET needs to be reviewed.
Okay. Very, very good. Councilmember Norby? There will be a summary of this that'll go out to everybody. Give me that.
I did more generalities than specifics. So I said keeping costs low, keeping perception of safety up, not kicking the can down the road, and limiting liability.
Okay, very good, thank you. Mayor?
Doing my last one.
Sure. It's nice to go last.
Exactly. I had the roads and the trails as well, the business layout to make sure we're, keeping our businesses, being able to work with them and to keep growing the way they're growing, and school safety and the students.
Thank you very much. City manager?
We already discussed ours.
Would you like me to share his poster with you? It's pretty blank over
I'd
here.
like to hear about it.
We playing hangman over there?
Okay, please take a moment and write down what range you would like to set for the 2024 levy target.
Oh, that's not fair.
Big money. No whammies, no whammies.
What it needs to be, or
And again, just as a reminder, we're at 5.6 just to break even.
Just to break even.
Okay.
And $70,000 per percent.
what is that? 7,000 per?
70,000.
70 or 75? 70, okay.
Are you already done?
You can count me out on this one. I'm, not when it comes to this budget. I'm sorry, I'm a little, I'm still learning all this, so I'm gonna bow out of this one.
Nope, that's perfectly fine. Remember, phrase your answer in the form of a question.
Nobody can hate me right now, so.
All right, are we, all answers are in. Are there now final? And we're gonna go to the mayor.
I'd like to see it at 5%, see what we can do. I mean, we've gone through a lot over the last few years. I don't know how realistic, I'm done. Should've done what you did.
Right, that's why I threw the hands up there. Nope.
I said from 1 to 5%. I might be
What do you want to get
unrealistic.
rid of? I don't know. 6 to 10%.
You want more pizza? Would you like more pizza?
No,
I'll
thank you.
actually bring it-
Oh, see?
Just kidding.
Very nice.
Supposed to be an airplane.
I tried throwing a piece of paper at you, but I missed.
I went with 7 to 8. I used the base of 5.6% and then another $2 million added onto the budget for CIP for everything else to come up with a percentage.
Okay. It's a really interesting concept. Can I have yours too, please?
You can take Brian's.
He doesn't write anything. No, it's a really interesting concept because the city went away from special assessments a number of years back. And, obviously, special assessments generates revenue. And so now that's something that we have to levy. Is the city council open to having a portion of our levy on an annual basis to be dedicated towards infrastructure?
Is that special assessment you don't want?
Yeah, instead of a special assessment, I mean, truthfully, to bring special assessments back is gonna create a lot of issues.
That was the last one to write the $10,000 check for my street
Yeah,
assessment.
that's right, you were in that last area.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah,
There's some
But-
truth to that, though.
but if you bring it back, many cities haven't, I mean, you can have.
I thought there was some unconstitutional, I thought something was passed where they weren't allowed to do special assessments anymore. Was
I
that?
just wrote a check out for $10,000 in my area.
Okay.
To have my road redone.
All right, then it's not true.
But, no, I mean, obviously, it's the methodology in which, how you're applying the special assessments to the property frontage. That is probably the biggest part of it that ends up being disputed. But you would end up having, major complaints if you run it back. But another way to offset it would be to have some sort of increase in your levy. And if you remember last year, that's what we were trying to do. And we had put some money in, and at the 11th hour, our health insurance went up significantly with PEEP, and it ate into our ability to start to build that constant. I look at it as being more of a sustainable way of funding your infrastructure into the future. And so it's just kind
Well,
of interesting.
How I looked at it, like one of the last ones to do the check for that is I don't have to pay $40,000 for a septic system. I don't have to pay, because I have all the city stuff that comes in front of my house that they're ripping up for. So to me, 10,000 compared to a septic system or something like that, in my mind, that's how I justified it, because I don't have to drill a well. I don't have to have a septic system out back that costs $30,000.
Sure.
But I understand how, nobody wants to add more to property tax, but yeah, I can see that.
So the last question for you tonight is if you could please take a moment and write down what budget topics or additional information would help in making your final budget decision. What other information would you like to see? Kind of told you how the format's gonna go. We're gonna have our department heads here. Next meeting, you will be given the complete CIP booklet. And then when our department heads come, you'll see their budget. You'll see the narratives, the statistics. They'll be presenting both their budget and their CIP requests. And it's your opportunity to hear from them and to ask any questions that you may have. We'll be doing that with all of our budgets, all the way through the whole entire process. Again, up to September, we really do have to focus on general fund, HRA, EDA, because those are the levy components for the city to be able to certify our maximum. But is there other information that you seek to be able to help make that decision? And again, if you don't have something right now, you may come up with something later on. But it helps us make sure that we're keeping you as informed and giving you all the information that you need to make the best decision for the residents of the city of North St. Paul. And It helps us lay out how we're going to be doing the future presentations.
So you'll have a list, because we don't know what we don't know yet.
Right.
So we're brand new, so we need, you know, the guidance of
Yep.
other council members plus the city to say, you know, this is something we need to focus on if we don't know it, type of thing, okay. All right,
One of the things I have is more Maplewood and Oakdale comparisons.
Okay.
Just what are our neighbors doing?
You bet.
They're fine lines.
and I really appreciate that budget you did with, for the, compare the other cities that you had down there for pricing as far as, you know, where they're sitting and how other cities are doing it our size too. I like Maplewood and Oakdale, but we're the little kids in the block. So exactly, we need to have somebody like Big Lake and those other ones. And I know a lot of times, I think when I talk to you, Jenny, you bring up Mounds View as quite a comparison sometimes
Yep,
when we
and they were-
talk.
Yep, and they
So-
were on our list.
And that would be something where, you know, how we can get, you know, compare notes with somebody that size and where they're going and what are they doing as far as police, fire, and just understanding what everybody's doing would be great. Yeah, Oakdale's not going up there.
Pick your kids. I'd love to see the department directors sit down and decide collaboratively what's the number one, their opinion of the number one priorities for the city and the city's needs, not individually.
That's good. I get a couple of comments. I'm striving for that. I think we did an excellent job last year when it came down to the end for additional asks as far as staffing is concerned. Had all the department heads together. Brian and I will be conducting an all-department head meeting, talking about the CIP and having them prioritize it. Everybody brings in a different perspective, but we've got to come out of there with what's the best interest of the city. I love it.
Well, they know the best of how things are, so it's good to be able to pull some of that information.
John, my Post-it note, I'll sign it.
Can I have it? Sign it, it's gonna be worth lots of money.
That's not worth anything.
Yeah.
Throw it away.
Two
No, not right now.
additional?
Yeah, so for me, I would like to see some impact reports or data on their operations, how things are going. And then particularly, like you had mentioned, how much is the needle moving, especially for those most recent requests or the previous year's requests.
I like it.
I'd also like to know what collaborations some of the different departments are doing, whether that's with another county or what have you. Just when we talk about resources and leveraging our resources, that might be helpful.
You should sign that.
Could I get your signature?
Hers is definitely worth something.
I'm feeling love on my side of the desk over here.
So, if there's no other questions, I want to thank you for a very good kickoff to the 2024 budget. Very insightful, a lot of ideas, a lot of food for thought for me, and how we develop and the information that we present to you in the future. Looking forward to working with all of you throughout this entire process. It's a fun ride. Councilmember Wong and Councilmember Cole know how fun this can be.
So much fun.
It's a lot of fun. And remember, I do bribe a little bit with the food up front. So.
Appreciate that.
But no, you're gonna be here for an hour and a half. You deserve it. We will end up having some specials, some additional meetings, to be able to get through the budget. And doggone it,
losing
I'm losing everything. But we'll end up having some specials that we'll end up having. That's how we'll probably do the department heads. We'll split them up and then have it on a separate day. We'll have half of them come in one, and then the other half come in the other one, the other day. But we'll probably have to have a different time and maybe we start it at whatever works well for you, like at a 5:30 and run it till we conclude those and keep moving forward.
I have a clarification question. So is that outside of the workshops that
I'm
are?
sorry, what's that?
Would that be outside of the regularly scheduled
Yes.
workshops? Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Many of your workshops are pretty well packed. And, I mean, I have no problem in going and talking until about 10, 11 o'clock at night if you'd like to do that. But I don't think you want to.
You don't scare me.
Shoot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan, nice
Thanks,
job.
Dan.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Mary Kate.
You helped me keep the toothpicks out of my eyes when we talk finances. I sincerely appreciate the way you do it.
All right.
Do we get to keep the Post-it notes?
Clean up a little.
No.
Oh, then you can have it back.
Are we good to call the meeting adjourned so we can adjourn the meeting? Anybody call for the?
So moved.
So move, council member.
Second.
So,
Second.
council member Swears. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Run, woman, run.
We were already, I thought we were already done.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Roll call.
Councilmember Cole?
Here.
Councilmember Schwer?
Here.
Councilmember Wong?
Here.
Councilmember Nordby?
Here.
Mayor Mungy?
Here. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So moved, Your Honor.
Councilmember Swear,
Second.
Councilmember Cole. All those in favor say aye.
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 I was so hard to say her name right.
Wow, is Mayor Furlong still here?
Yep. Pulled one out of the old bag of tricks there. All right, thank you. Consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Consent agenda tonight, item A, June 6th, 2023 workshop minutes. Item B, June 6th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Item C, general claims of $1,910,591.37. Item D, HRA claims of $334,195.88. Item E, resolution approving a PUD amendment for the Lilly redevelopment project. Item F, resolution approving an amendment to the comprehensive plan. Item G, development agreement between the City of North St. Paul and the NSP 2515 LLC. Item H, lease agreement between the City of North St. Paul and the Kokoro Volleyball LLC. Item I, ordinance amending the North St. Paul City Code as it relates to parking restrictions in the business district. Item J, League of Minnesota Cities waiver for the Economic Development Authority liability insurance. Item K, building permit report for May of 2023. Item L, resolution accepting donations, May of 2023. Item M, approve the tobacco license. And item N, liquor license renewal for 2024.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody want to pull any items?
I would like to pull item E.
Item E. Anything else? Okay.
E will become D.
Okay. Are we good to move on? All right. That motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
So move.
Second.
Councilmember Cole, second, Councilmember Schwer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Next part is we're going to have open to the public. Carrie will be keeping track. We have 3-minute time limit. She will give me a motion for 1 minute left so we can keep everybody moving. We have a list here tonight, so I will. Joe Stallman. Name and address, please, for the record.
Thank you, Joe Stallman, 2205 15th Avenue. Thank you for having me here today. I would like to stand here in support of Triple Crown Batting Cage in its current configuration and business model. I see the batting cage as a great asset to the community. I feel really good about all of the things that are happening up at McKnight Fields. And I think that just driving off of Highway 36 and seeing that sports complex and all the action that's happening there is a good thing. I think we should keep it going. I have not seen the owner's books. I don't know what they look like. I don't know if he's making a lot of money or barely scraped by, but I hope you have before we make the decision today. It would be terrible if we changed the business model and then had the building go vacant. Couldn't find someone to fill that position to keep that business going. That would be my biggest fear, and I hope you will consider continuing your agreement as it has been for the last 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it. TJ, please. Welcome. Name and address, please.
TJ Hawthorne, 2618 2nd Avenue East. Just to add what Joe said, everything, that place has been a staple in my life, growing up. And what I don't see is the logical conclusion, like you said, if it becomes empty, where right now there's a net zero tax, and if we're looking to add more tax, why, for one, what is the, we have this here now, and we need to take this amount away from it every year because our city is lacking funds? Is that what we're looking for? I don't understand where this place has been a staple in this community for 30 years. And the net positive that that place generates, not just the athletes that have come out of this town, but the wellness of our community. So I'm glad Joe got to say the things first because he says it perfectly. And I just really second exactly what Joe said as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
Eric?
Good evening. Thanks for listening to me today. So Eric Bartholomew, and yes, absolute direct relation to Dennis Bartholomew, the owner of Triple Crown Batting Cages. Address 16144. I'm at Inverness Way. That's in Lakeville. I grew up in North St. Paul. Went to high school here, and for many years after that, lived here as well too. So a couple things that I just wanted to say. For one, of course, I'm coming to this as a son, and knowing for the last 30 years the sacrifice, and of course, like any business owner, they all sacrifice, when they decide to open up a business. But certainly, my dad is no exception. And what he has meant to this community, how much he cares about this community, the decision that he made years and years ago to open up a batting cage while, it was a side business, something to start doing. And what it became after that has been nothing short of, I can't tell you how many lessons I've learned as a youth and then growing up and now as an adult and as a father, what that took. And at the same time, everything that it's meant to the community. You listened to TJ, you heard Joe, and of course the thousands of others that would reiterate the same thing. The tireless hours that he spent down there to create what it is today, the work that he's done with the local food shelf here, thousands of pounds, giving out free rounds of hitting because of that, the offer that they give to customers and what those things, what that provides to, baseball, softball players and all the growth and opportunity that I know I've had on the baseball field, giving one-on-one instructions as well as to teams. The eyes that light up when things click, and what that becomes. Those are all a few of the many experiences that I've had working there, growing up there, being around there. It was my second home, basically. I was 14 years old, and I'm almost 43, so the amount of years that it's been around and the influence that it's had on this community and myself and everybody around me, including my friends as well, too, has been enormous. I guess the last thing I would say is just, there aren't a lot of batting cages I know perhaps the niche that a batting cage is. There aren't a lot around. There have been a lot that have tried, that have come and gone and disappeared. And for a lot of reasons is because of what has been proposed all of a sudden after 30 years. It's tough. It's a tough business. There's a few months that might do really well and come back in December. We're in Minnesota, and it's a hockey state. A lot of other players, a lot of other sports, of course, take rain. And so a baseball softball facility is needed by many. There just aren't a lot. People from all over Wisconsin. There's been people from Duluth that have come down. It's a destinational place, and there's nowhere else to go. And so my father provided that. He's provided it for a long time, and I hope that continues to be something that is provided.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Jay, and I can't read the last name, sorry. No, I see you now. Name and address, please.
My name is Jay Tashney. I'm speaking on behalf of my 10-year at the Transfiguration Catholic Church. The address is escaping me. But, in my 12 years of working as a youth pastor in the North St. Paul, Oakdale community, I can't necessarily speak to the financial importance of having a facility like this, but I can speak to the social aspects. When you're counseling kids on specifically batting, if you can hit, we'll find a place for you on the team. And there are so many young people today that are looking for a place on the team. They're looking for a place to belong. And I think the world, I think gangs, I think, situations are offered to kids. And if we don't provide and subsidize an opportunity like a Triple Crown batting cage where kids can openly explore their weaknesses and improve those weaknesses, I think we would be at a great loss if we lose an opportunity to minister to kids in that way. As a business owner, obviously I do roofing. We were able to improve the facility and create a very attractive and outward appearance, make it look better. And to shut that down at this point in time, to make it not affordable for people, I think would be a travesty. And I just am speaking in support of the Triple Crown batting cages for the purpose of having kids have a place to belong. Okay. Jamie Ogden couldn't be with us tonight, and from the Minnesota Twins, he's obviously at a Twins game. And he wrote a statement as well, and he was very adamant, kind of shared some of the same pieces of his struggle to try to have a place on the team and a place to belong. And he was able to, through Triple Crown, that's really where he developed his craft of batting and literally took it beyond making the JV, the varsity, the college, and then eventually the Minnesota Twins. And, so having a kid from our community that was able to have that, I think I hold that out as an example for you in making this decision. So God bless your decision.
Thank you. Christine? Name and address, please.
Christine Oddie, 2528 15th Avenue East, North St. Paul, not too far from the batting cages. Do have two sons, one's almost 30 and one is 24. Baseball really wasn't their thing. We probably went there about a handful of times, but we have kids playing for the Twins. We have kids from our community like the Vennard boys, who I'm pretty sure spent some time over there at Triple Crown. And for you guys to come in and after the deal that you've had with him for 30 years and be like, we need more money for you. It's probably kind of a slap in the face, kind of, for this gentleman. We've had other things in the past that all of a sudden we don't have lifeguards at Silver Lake anymore. That's it's been a little while, but this is a place where kids can go and they can hit some balls. They can, relieve some stress. It's a better place to go. We've got other youth in our community who are not making good choices. I mean, I'm sure you all are aware of what happened just on McKnight last night. Don't know if those young men were from this area or not, but hopefully we can continue to have a place that's economical for people in our community to go and have their children learn some baseball skills. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Cassidy? Did I got that right?
Casey.
Casey, sorry. My bad. Hi, welcome. Name and address, please.
Yep, Casey Carlson, 9897 Starlight, that's in Woodbury. I'm speaking in support of the batting cage in 3 different areas. So first of all, I am the commissioner of the 3M Softball League that plays out here on Thursday nights. We moved out here after they closed Tartan Park in 2016, and we did it ostensibly because there's a batting cage here where we can all take batting practice before we go and pull muscles and things like that. So we really like it, and we can't tell you enough how much we really enjoy that. I also speak to you as a youth baseball coach. So I've coached baseball for 15 years, and one of the things that Bart does at the batting cage that goes unappreciated is that you can rent out the batting cage for $50 an hour for the entire team. And so we've done that. We've brought lots of kids over here from Woodbury to be able to take batting practice and things like that, because we're competing against a lot of these club teams, and these club teams cost a lot of money, and a lot of people can't afford it. Most of the kids that I coach, they're not kids that can afford a lot of money to be able to do this, and so that's been very affordable. One thing too, as the 3M softball coach, that I want to stress here is that we bring money to the community. The VFW is a sponsor of one of our teams. Newman's and the VFW get a lot of business after our games, and so take that for what it's worth. The other thing, and then I'll let you go, but I encourage you to go look at the batting cage. Go inside. It's not something that is opulent, and I mean, he's using nets that he used for 30 years. Some of those balls are older than me, and I'm 54 years old. So he's raised the price of the batting cage 3 times in 30 years. And each time when I'd come in, he's like, Casey, I need to raise the price. I'm really sorry about this. And it's just marginal, but he really speaks to the common man when he's pricing this stuff out. So I encourage you to just go take a look and ask, is this a place where it's generating a lot of money? There's a batting cage down in Burnsville, and if you go look at that, it's a lot different. It's very upscale. It also costs a lot more money. It's a whole different thing. Bart is doing this for the common man, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bob, please.
Bob Mosner, 2086 Margaret. I know Barty for, I don't know, 40 years now, 50 maybe. I'm still playing ball. And when I go to his cage to tune up or before we're going to a tournament down in Florida or something, you know, it's nice to be able to go somewhere where you can get some swings that's reasonable. Like these high-tech cages you're talking about, geez, they're expensive as heck. You know, it's pricey out of it. Barty's place is reasonable. It's cheap. He's not making a kill in there. You know, I think you guys need to look at his books and see, you know, he's not, and the only time it's really busy is early in the year when the snow is still on the ground before the teams want to get out in the spring. The rest of the time, you can get in and there's, you know, no waiting. So I think you guys need to look at that. It's a heck of a price increase there. From nothing to $2,100 a month. It's a big jump, especially for the guy that built the buildings. That and the concession stands and donated it to you. That I think he deserves a break. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Bob. John Schmall. That last name I can say. That's why.
I'm in favor. I don't know, the other people. John Schmall, 2750 Chisholm Avenue, North St. Paul. Neighbor had daughter's graduation party in the Casey Lake Pavilion Saturday. Told me that when they got there, the key code wouldn't work and had to wait 45 minutes for someone to show up to open the door, and when they finally did, they had to be warned to get some Gorilla tape to tape the panic bar down on one of the doors, because if people went out, they wouldn't get back in. So I don't know how that works, but I got to believe what he said. So anyway, so maybe you want to look into what the code problem is. The next item is they've changed the documents that come with notification by email of these meetings. And first of all, you get the email message or the indication you have the message, then you go in and you open the email message. There's no time on that document. So what's the deal? Can't you just put down 5:30 when it's the workshop or 6:30 when it's the council meeting? I took this up with Carrie last meeting because I said, I'm going to try a different way of doing it. I won't bring it up to you. I'll talk to her. I don't know what, she explained something and I couldn't understand what it was. But again, you have to go in, open your email from the city, and no time. Then there's another document when you hit agenda that comes up, a brand new type of document that's only been around a couple of months, no time. And this particular time with the workshop, I decided, well, I know when the workshop is. It's at 5:30. Just yesterday I went, I better check. No, it's not at 5:30. It's at 5 this time around. So, you know, what can you do? ADA requirements for new developments. I found out from the former chair of the Planning Commission that she was able to bring up the fact that there needed to be 2 more ADA spots in the new development, the Lilly building, because there had to be 2 per floor. So lots of things happened when that came up. But there's nothing in the rules of the game that says PC rules on ADA developments or what is required. So I don't know where the ADA police are, but I guess it's just that people speak up and say, you're missing the ADA requirements like Elaine did. And in the case of the change that was required, Brandy had to explain to me the floor plan of the new development. I couldn't figure it out, how it was done, and she was able to explain to it. The work-live units have stairs into them. How can you have a workspace that doesn't have an entrance that does have stairs? You can't do that. It can't be done. But evidently that's the way this turns out. And there was a question from the council that said to Brandy as to what happens if there's no work in live-work units. And Brandy said, no problem, it's a dwelling unit, it's just more dwelling units. The former chair of the PC board said, and she appeared at a meeting that you had on Saturday morning to impress upon the fact that in the MU district of the city, downtown area, you have to have 2 uses. If the work units go away, it's in violation. But there's no police that'll ever bring the city to court on that subject. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that will close open to the public. Sorry. What? Oh, anyone online? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll close public hearing. Go to city business. It's all you.
Thank you, Mayor. First up on the city business action items and recommendations is resolution to authorize participation in the Ramsey County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. We have Brandy Howe here, Community Development Director, to discuss this.
This item was actually discussed at the previous 2 city council meetings. The first was in May, or actually I think it was in April, I'm sorry, as a workshop session. And we had Ramsey County Commissioner Victoria Reinhardt here to speak on behalf of it, as well as Carrie Collins, the Community Development Director of Ramsey County. And at the last meeting on June 6th, I provided a presentation to give a better overview, not a better overview, but an overview from our perspective, from North St. Paul's perspective, on how this program, the levy, may benefit or not benefit the city of North St. Paul. And at that time, City Council had asked for some additional time to consider the ramifications of participation in this. So at this time, staff is looking for your direction on whether or not to participate. Carrie Collins is here today to answer any additional questions you might have, but I'll just open it up to you at this point.
Any questions on that item?
I have none.
Anybody want to bring up the motion to vote on? Is that the number? What's the?
Is there a motion?
There's supposed to be a motion.
Yep. So want to read the motion again? Then we'll vote on it. authority to participate in the Ramsey County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. So that's the vote to participate in. Any, no questions? Anybody want to?
Just for clarity purposes, a yes vote would mean we would like to opt into the Ramsey County. A nay vote would mean we would like to sustain
That's
at this time.
That is my, is that what,
Yep.
is that correct?
Okay.
So yes is we're joining the HRA, Ramsey County. No is we're keeping our own. Correct?
Yep.
All right. So I want to call. Can I have a motion for the vote?
So moved, Your Honor.
Oh, maybe I was
Second.
missing something else. All those in, Councilmember Wong, second by Councilmember Cole. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, what do you mean? I thought that's for, I'm sorry, I missed it, I missaid that. I thought it was I'm sorry, I am a nay.
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 I thought it was a call for the vote, I apologize.
So the motion fails.
Thank you very much. Next one.
All right, next up is the lease agreement between the City of North St. Paul and Triple Crown Batting Cages LLC. Just to read the background facts on this, the City of North St. Paul is the owner of the recreational property and building with the common address of 2308 10th Avenue East. The property is located on the City of McKnight Field Recreation Complex, which consists of multiple batting and softball fields and other related building structures and appurtenances. The city recognizes that the owner, Dennis Bartholomew, from Triple Crown Batting Cages, has built it at his own expense, the building at 2308 10th Avenue East, and donated it to the city after a 15-year agreement or lease. All obligations under this initial agreement and donations of the building have been fulfilled by all parties. The current lease will terminate on June 30th, 2023. The proposed agreement would have Triple Crown Batting Cages LLC paying the city for use of the building and property at a base rent of $3.50 per square foot, with a total of 7,200 square feet, for a total of $25,200 per contract year, in equal monthly installments of $2,100 a month. The proposed agreement will commence July 1st, 2023, and continue through June 30th, 2024, and could continue for a maximum of 5 contract years if the contract is not canceled.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just, I think Brian did a good job of touching on all the points on why the contract was put into place, because the current one is coming to an end. The terms that are in here and reflected, it is my understanding that that's with staff and I believe your negotiation with Mr. Bartholomew. The agreement itself is rather straightforward. It's a simple lease. I know that there are questions about why are we charging rent now, and my understanding is there was direction that the previous agreements had been satisfied and that the city was interested in collecting some rent, just in fairness, out of the idea that you are giving up public space and you should generate some revenue on that. So that was the negotiated price, was my understanding. I had a conversation with Brian and Mr. Bartholomew last week. I was not aware of any of these issues. My understanding is the sole issue that remains is the actual contract amount, which is currently based on $3.50 a square foot for 7,200 square feet, coming in at $2,100 a month or $25,200 a year. So I believe that's the issue that has caused some additional discussion. Other than that, the contract is before you. I do think we need to come to some sort of resolution, given the contract term ends at the end of this month. So I would encourage us to try and figure out how to work through it tonight. I believe Mr. Bartholomew's here, so if we want to try and figure it out, that's great. Otherwise, the contract's before you for your consideration.
Does anybody? I'll start off, I guess, because I was at the negotiations. I know, and North St. Paul, we went through an audit as far as where we're at with all of our different assets and different things with the city. It's It's a for-profit business on city land. The 15 years was negotiated when the building was there. The term was met. There was an extra 15 years to go up to 30 years as far as that. But it's we talked about it. I called around for different square footages to figure out. $5 a square foot was a good price. $4 or $5 was a fair price. $4 a square foot was a good price, and $3 a square foot for that kind of a facility was an excellent price. So we negotiated. I think it was the end of April. Walked away, and first I heard about any kind of issues was last week when Brian reached out to me, and I was actually on job sites, so I couldn't meet last week. And so I was very surprised that this came up again, because I thought we went through everything with that being a for-profit. We talked about for-profit, not-for-profit, but being on the city land as far as being other scenarios, paying rent. Of course, the building being there was the 15 years worth of rent, so that was completely acceptable. And then it went another 15 years, and that money will go towards the parks and other things we have as well. So, and then being on the public land is where we discussed. Anything I missed as far as that with our negotiations?
That was a pretty good coverage of it, yes. Yep, I agree.
So, does any council member after reading have any input?
I appreciate all of you coming out here and giving us your thoughts on the building. I happen to agree with most of you. That is a wonderful facility. I remember when I was a youth, I've swung bats there and enjoyed it, and thank him for having it. As a city council member, though, to protect the assets of the city, to give a city-owned property for free to a for-profit business, unfortunately, I believe opens us up to too much liability for discrimination and favoritism claims. I want to see the business succeed. I want to see it stay. But I don't believe the current free model, unfortunately, is viable to protect the assets of the city.
Thank you. Any other council members like to say anything?
I'll go ahead. Yeah, thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts. And much like Councilmember Norby, I totally agree. Youth need somewhere to go. Absolutely. And Mr. Bartholomew has run a business here for 30 years. And successfully, it seems to be. You all are here for a reason. And also in the same vein, I think when we talk about the duration of the agreement that's been there, an additional 15 years of rent-free, I think we've made a good trade there, and so I think $2,100 a month may be feasible. I think that's a feasible ask. And again, my understanding is it was negotiated. Thank you.
Councilmember Schwer?
Yeah. Thank you again for everyone that came out this evening to support Mr. Bartholomew, I too believe that this is a great asset to the city as well as to the youth in the surrounding area. And I'm grateful to hear that some of the older generations are utilizing it as well. I am also in agreement with the council members here, the 15 years, and additional 10 on top of that. Rent-free is, I feel very generous. However, I also am in the mindset of I would like to discuss more, not tonight, in regards to what that contract looks like, because as we saw that contract and that number, again, we understand that we agreed to it, and that it was agreed amongst council and, or not, excuse me, council, but the negotiation was there with mayor and city manager Frandl and Bartholomew. However, I would like to talk about more at another time.
Councilmember Cole, any input?
Spending the last 27 years in North St. Paul, my boys have swung a lot of bats over there. And it is truly an asset. There truly is a need for something for youth to do in the city. Taking a look at the batting cages versus the parks versus some of the other things, we recognize that profits aren't made in a park in a city, that the city invests money into a park to do additional things for the community. I do view this as a 15-year agreement that was fulfilled, an additional 15 years that was provided at no cost. And at this point in time, it is a for-profit company, and the city does have liabilities that need to be addressed. I too was of the assumption that both parties were in agreement at the $3.50. So I'm actually disappointed that we've come to this position where we are tonight. The support that you have, you've got a supporter on this side of the desk too. But it's disappointing that it's come to this. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how I'm going to vote. What I have to vote on is yes for $3.50 a square or no. If we vote yes at $3.50 a square foot, that leaves the decision to run a business, in my opinion, up to you, and we've got legal guidance here that can help clarify where I stand and correct me. If we vote no, your lease expires in 10 days.
So the action is to yay for approval for the attached management services agreement for the municipal recreation facility.
Can I interrupt one thing, Brian?
Sure.
You told me I had a chance to speak at this council meeting.
Please, come up. Please.
Nobody's invited me to speak. Why is that?
You are certainly welcome to speak.
Anybody answer that? I sit back and I listen to this. I think you know who I am, Dennis Bartholomew. I can give you 2 addresses. My wife isn't sure which one I live at on that. But go back to the beginning of this thing. You got a guy who remortgaged his house to take a gamble, because I knew at that time, when you build these batting cages, you aren't going to be able to pay rent on something like that. That's why there's nothing left in the Twin City area, okay? We become a destination for all these people that come into this town and spend money here. And we go back to the 15-year lease. Let me explain that. When I first approached the city, and you're talking people that, at that time, Bill Sandberg was the mayor, Betty McCollum, U.S. Congresswoman. Chuck Uyghur was involved in this, Leon Lilly, state representative. They thought it was unbelievable. They asked me, why do you only want 15 years? I said, I don't know if it'll go, and I don't know if I want to continue on with this. But after 15 years, and I came back and I said, let's go. Let's keep it going. In this room right here, and I don't know if we were still here, I guess not, I get an ovation from them and the people in the gallery thanking me for that. So now we get 15 years done again. And the question I have to the council is, we've had this agreement going on, and for some reason you're saying, oh, well, we fulfilled our obligation. I built this. I paid for it. That concession building out there is used by so many nonprofit organizations, including the fire department there, was one of the big ones. They've all profited off of that, and I kept my hands off that. That had nothing to do with me when I did that. But I have to ask you guys, what's changed to that we're all of a sudden in this point where you're gonna ask me, and I guess, I don't know how to better put it, thanks for the building. Now you can start paying us again. We'll make you pay for the building again. We're gonna start charging, 5-year agreement, $125,000.
Now, let me explain my books that somebody's asking about. In this business, and you heard one of the people here, and first of all, I want to thank everybody who came here today in support. If we had longer notice, there'd be a heck of a lot more here, but when it comes to what happens at the cages there, we're a 5-month business. I have to make that kind of money to get through the whole year and hope that we do. Every year it's like, well, I hope I can make it through this with the bills that we have to pay. Whatever I have left, and this year, for example, I've given $4,500 in charities. By the end of the year, it'll be over $10,000 because when the holidays come, things tend to ramp up. I have never in my 30 years turned down one organization, church, school, anything that has asked for something. I've always done it. I just wrote a check for $500 for a cancer, 13-year-old girl. I sent $400 worth of clothing to another one. You know, some of my shirts and sweatshirts and jackets. The food shelf this week, I went in, and what did they say to me? Hey, Triple Crown's here. What do you got? I said, well, here it is. And he goes, we just went over 18,000 pounds. I guess it means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. There's people hungry out there that need this. So with the prices I charge, there isn't a lot left over there. And when we met here 2 council meetings ago, and I believe Lisa Wong made a comment, I think we need to look at where we could extend this, maybe a year, you said, or 2, was one of the things. I get a call and we're gonna have a meeting, and the meeting is, and I gotta tell you, Mayor, in all due respect, and Brian, you were there, I was flabbergasted. You backed me into a corner like, what are we doing here? And yeah, we negotiated, and the more I think about it, I'm thinking, can I make this happen? At that price, I don't know. If I give it a year to look at that, and I give you back an empty building, I guess you can do something with it. It's got slanted floors going down. And the thing that's sad, and what's been a passion to me all my life, is these kids and these families that have gained through this. I worked as an executive in transportation for years. That's what I did for a living. This thing was done on the side. When I retired is when I started to get more involved. Now, I have a passion for it. I love being down there. I love the kids and the parents because it's what we should be like in America. Yes, sir, no, sir, thank you. They're the most politest kids, and I see them go on to get scholarships. I've had people come back to me that are dentists, lawyers. One's a nuclear physicist with NASA right now. She worked for me. I'm like, those kind of things just warm my heart to see that. And kids that can't afford to go to these training centers, I mean, they're charging $300 an hour. You want to come in, give us $300, or you want to join a league, $3,000. It's tough. We're the one place that keeps it down, and there isn't a week goes by or a day that people don't thank me for being there. And it isn't there for the money, guys, trust me. My hours right now, we're in the summer, 3 months, noon to 8 during the week. The rest of the year, we're open 3 to 8, 5 hours a day. That isn't a lot of hours. In the fall, I close Sundays during professional football season because there just isn't the business, you know. So this isn't a cash cow by any means. It never has been. And I'm just trying to do the right thing. I don't know if anybody in this city, has anybody donated a building to the city and said it's yours? I know we had an agreement that I would run out of this, but the one thing I promised the day we signed that, it'll never cost the taxpayers 1 penny or this city. And that has been held true 100%. Nothing. I footed every bill on everything I've had to do there. And a lot more, like the sound system on the baseball field. I don't even like talking about it because I do a lot of it anonymously, but if you must know, these are things I do. I give away a lot of stuff, and that's what life should be like. You gotta be a giver. And if I'm in a position to do that with that business, that's what I do. And that's what I wanna do. So I ask you as a council to please think about this, what you're doing. If you insist for this, whatever reason that it has to be a rent, it's like, I don't know how to better say this. If I had my kids move in with me because they didn't have anywhere to go and they had a family, and then down the road, I said, you know what, I'm gonna sign you over my house. It's yours, because someday we're not gonna be here. A year later, they said, Dad, Mom, you're gonna pay rent. Kind of the same thing, I think. So, I leave it up to you. I just don't see what's different. When we started, I could have probably asked for a 50-year lease, and they would have given it to me. They were that happy about it, and they questioned why I only did 15. And I said, I don't know if I want to be invested this long. Well, now it's become a passion. And to think that I would have to turn away these kids and these families, that hurts. That really does. If you think we need to move on with the rental thing, then we need to work together on this and get this into something that I can make work so we can continue this business. I don't think you want me to go out of business, does anybody? Or you want an empty building? I mean, I wouldn't think so. I'm asking you then, let's work together if we do have to do a contract or something, but I gotta have something better. That's $25,000 a year. I don't think I can make it go with that. It's tough, So from there, I don't know where you want to go with this. If we have to meet again, or you want to talk about it right now? I mean,
I know we discussed.
what I'd like to see you say is, you know what, let's go another 15 years, but you're probably not gonna. Somewhere you think that we have to answer to the city people or whatever, but again, I said they've never paid a dime, taxpayers or the city. I stuck everything I had in this. My son's here. He knows what we went through. Hell, he was down there many, many times, and he can tell you how many times I was there till 2 in the morning because I do all my own maintenance, so can't afford to bring anybody in to do that. Besides that, nobody else knows it better than I do, so. I'm just passionate, so I apologize if I come across, but I'm passionate about this whole thing. It's 30 years of my life. And that's, we gotta, whether that means anything or not, it does to me, I know that. But what means more to me is the kids and the families that wouldn't have an opportunity to do this, because I don't know where they go. And I've seen them come through the Louis and Gus Varlands. I grew up in my cages. Tommy and Robbie Quinlan, 15 years in the majors. Jeff DeSchmidt out of Matamita, Gopher captain, went on to play pro ball. They mentioned Jimmy Ogden of the Minnesota Twins. These are all people that came in my cages and grew up there, and I know them personally. So I don't know. Where do you want to go?
On the legal side, when it comes to the.
Yep, so the lease runs till the end of the month. So if we're looking to renegotiate it, I would recommend that there be a motion to extend the current lease for a month or 2 months, whatever we think it'll take to get a deal done. And we can bring back the new and revised agreement. So if there's a motion to continue the new lease, we'll just draft up a simple little continuation of the current terms. Or certainly the proposed lease is in front of you too. It's really up to you guys how you want to do it.
Any more questions after that? Anybody? I know the big, go ahead.
I guess I have one. And I want to work with you because I believe you have a great product. For me, one of the hardest parts is setting the precedence of, giving a free rent to a for-profit business. Can I ask why you've never gone to a not-for-profit or nonprofit?
We discussed that the day we were talking.
Yeah, you know, that's never crossed my mind that I'm a nonprofit. I give things, you know, I make money to give things. So I don't know if that would qualify, you know, and I've never been one to, I don't know what you'd call it, look for a way out, you know, it isn't what I do, so, you know. And if I was nonprofit, would that change things? I don't know.
So that's where the books are open, and yet, and as far as us being able to lease to, you know, having a public facility that has no rent, that's what came up before, was that it's a public asset.
I mean, for 30 years we did this, and that's what.
Well, the first contract was 15, so a negotiation was, the building is in lieu of rent.
Right.
So that's,
Absolutely.
yep, that's where that went through and that was fulfilled. Then it doubled from there and there was no in between. So the agreement was, that's where they were talking about. What we discussed originally was the building for 15 years of using it.
Don't forget, we threw in the concession building too, and that wasn't cheap.
Well, yeah, alls I know is what the contracts were signed and that's all we can go off of. And that's all when they do the audit and they look at things, you know, where are the leases, where are things at? How are we as a community? Are we
At the time,
distinguishing between certain groups that don't get certain things? So that's where it makes it for a
At the time
tough
I
job.
did it, you know, there was a little more than I had taken out as a loan. And I said, concession building, you need one. They built it, they were building that complex at the time. And you know how it sits. What are you gonna have in the middle? You gotta have something. And they were looking for funds to do it at the time. They got their funds. So,
You were gonna mention something, did you? Or not?
Well, typically, we wouldn't have someone open up their books because in some.
Exactly, it's private.
It's private, and furthermore, you know, you've got an asset and there's a value to it. And it doesn't matter whether he's making a little money or if it's coming in hand over fist, it's worth what it's worth, and that was the negotiations.
Yeah, and
So a poor profit, not for profit, I'm not sure that ultimately would matter or save the day on this.
It's just us being stewards of the resources we have, right?
That's right.
yeah, if I was hand over fist and money, trust me, I guess I wouldn't be sitting down there doing this, other than I love, you know, that's a passion for me. And, years ago, I could have been living on a lake, but this thing's got in my blood, and I own it. I mean, it's right here. I was asked that question, what happens if it closes? I couldn't answer that question. So, where do we go? What do you want to do? I mean, if we're gonna rent, work with me on this so we can get something feasible.
Yeah, that's,
I know
we
we're-
started at 5, we worked down to 3.5, so that's why I was
5 is,
working on it.
you know, kind of a,
Yeah.
what you say, whatever that is not even above it.
I just called around, but to figure out stuff.
3.5, I gotta be honest with you, especially with what we got here. You got the building. I hate to say this morbidly, but couldn't you wait until I died? You could do whatever you want. You could wait till I'm dead, and it's yours.
We weren't trying to do anything
But it's
personal against you, believe me, it's,
But I thought about that. Can you wait
Yeah.
till I'm dead?
well, like I said, when they come up, we're taking matters that pop up and we're trying to go through and see what's best for the city, and like I said, that's absolutely nothing personal.
Yeah, well,
My kids were, 14 years I coached North St. Paul baseball, and my kids were up there, it's nothing to do with
trust me.
you
I
personally.
Put my time in coaching there.
Yeah, exactly, so. It's balls and strikes when it comes to being on the city council. I've learned that.
I don't know. Not collecting rent or collecting less rent or what, I don't know how that hurts anything, you know, if I can.
If we could,
I have a proposal, but I don't know if you want to even hear it now.
oh yeah,
Can I do that?
sure.
What I would think would be feasible, and this is what I'd throw in, and right away you're gonna go, oh, that isn't, but I'd be willing to try, and I got to say try, but $2 a square foot. That puts $14,400 to the city that I come up with for the year, okay? And that's about $72,000 in 5 years. I mean, that helps. You're getting rent out of that. And that's kind of where I'd like to be at if we need to do this.
We need to, as far as the assets have something, it's for us to keep in.
Well,
go
keep
with
that in
what we
mind,
have.
the $2, I'd like to do that. I mean, the other thing I thought of was, a full-service gross lease.
A what, I'm sorry?
A full-service gross lease.
What's that? Just off the road?
Nobody knows? That would be pretty much what we were agreed on in this contract, but it would also include you pay the utilities. That's what a full gross lease. I've dealt in this stuff because I built buildings and stuff with my old job, so. And sometimes we did all that, So, that's the other one.
If I may ask,
Yes.
the contract is looking at 5 years. Are
Yes.
you planning on having succession planning with this business at
Having
all?
what?
Succession planning, so somebody coming after you to take over?
Not putting any pressure.
No pressure.
My son's
Yeah.
a little too far away, and he knows what commitment it is, and it's tough. If I did it, it would be somebody locally. I'd want to find somebody locally to do that. But, they have to come in and, to make it really big for them, raise prices through the roof or something, Because these other places sure do. That's how they pay. Understand, when COVID ended, the last 5 ones of true batting cages, they all shut the doors, all that same week when they lifted the COVID. And a couple of them I thought would never go away. Oh, they did. And I talked to a few of the owners, they said, can't make it. And I've seen many of them, Oakdale, Stillwater, Woodbury, they open them up, and within 6 months, they're gone, because they don't realize, they may come in and look at mine and go, oh, God, look at this, in February, which we're busy. Man, we'll make a killing all year. Guess what, August comes and it's like, right down. And they don't realize that, and I had one of them even open in August, and I'm thinking, you're done, buddy. You got 2 months free rent the next month. He pulled out overnight, and he had sold yearly memberships. These people all lost them. And he was an ex-minor league player, I guess. I don't know. I didn't know the guy, but he was desperate. He even copied my cost sheets, took my name off and put his company on, used the same exact ones I had. I'm like, boy, does that look familiar right off my printers? So it's a tough thing,
So the two, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if I may entertain the idea of extending the lease for a month or two for further negotiation, I would make that motion. But I think you had something to say, so.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, so the two that you mentioned was 2% or with utilities and everything else?
$2.
$2, I'm sorry. $2 a square foot, sorry. And then the other one would be the 3.5 with the utilities is what the gross.
I'd rather do the $2
Okay.
with the gross lease. But I'll be realistic, with the $2, that I can make work. Because I think we all have the same goal. We don't want this going.
No.
Just there's too much for,
We don't want to, and as us on the council being stewards of what we have, we just have to, do something. I thought we were in agreement. I agree with Councilmember Wong, we can discuss the items that you brought up. As far as that, we just,
to me, I'd just soon get on with it. If we can do it before the end of the month or something, let's get it done, and it's up to you guys. Whatever.
what is anybody else's
If
thoughts?
you want
on
to
this?
wait, we can wait a month too.
I personally would like to wait and discuss the cost and the price of it and extend the lease, at least till August.
When is your slow time again?
Slow time of the year,
Mhm.
August right through the end of January. That's about.
I see where you're going with this one.
Yeah.
I'd say
Don't want to pull the rug out either, yeah.
That's like 6 months, so February, and even today, like, you're in there today. I mean, we're there 5 hours, $100. And part of that is the weather's too nice. They're gonna be outside. If it rains, they all come in. But you've seen what we've had this year, no rain.
Yeah.
So it really does. When it rains, it's like, wow, they come pouring in. But when you have days like this, it's, you know, they're outside, you know. That's our goal, isn't it?
So I guess I'm ready to propose a motion. And my motion would be that I would propose a motion that we extend the existing lease 60 days with Triple Crown. And during that 60-day period of time, it's my expectation that staff and Mr. Bartholomew and/or anyone else who's with you come to an agreed-upon dollar amount that is like-minded for both city and for business. But it is not my expectation that we extend the lease indefinitely with zero revenue. Is that too much?
Cole, when you say 60 days, could we make it like a firm date, like August 31st?
Perfect.
August 1st.
31st.
Okay, during that time that I will be meeting with somebody, we'll get together, probably you and the mayor.
No, I don't know if I'm supposed to be involved in that.
Oh, it's just, it's a staff function.
Good, thank you.
And then, Soren, I had a question. We talked about that,
The maintenance.
yeah, the maintenance thing. Is that getting corrected?
It did.
It did?
Yep.
Okay, because I haven't got a new one, that's fine.
And that was corrected for
'Cause
the
it
next
was,
meeting.
when I read it, and I said, 5 years from now, the new council or whoever is gonna say, no, you're responsible, it says right here, you're responsible for everything. And it does. But they were saying, oh, no, that doesn't mean that. It means we'll take care of it. I'm like, no, that's, so we clarify.
Yeah, exactly.
We
Want
did
everything
clarify
clear.
that. We can send you the new, if you don't have the new version, we can get that
Yeah,
to you.
no, yeah. Well, we're gonna do a new version
Yep.
once we negotiate anyways.
Correct. Yeah, we had that ready for this one in case it
Okay,
was going
so
forward.
August 1st, and then is somebody gonna,
August 31st.
31st.
31st, somebody gonna contact me so we can
Staff
get
will.
together and hand it to you?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Second?
We have a motion, we haven't,
yep. Motion by, to extend the lease to August 31st.
Second?
Cole, second by Councilmember Wong. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Me too.
thanks, Bart.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you for
Oh,
your,
yeah.
thank you for your passion.
Thank you all.
It has been, and that's why I'm kinda adamant about it.
Yeah, that's good.
I gotta be able to make things work so that I can continue to do the things I do for the community and for the people. North St. Paul, I've been there all my life. And
If you're home too much, the wife might get mad at you.
she, like I said, my address could be, she understands. She backed at 100% when we first started, and she's always been,
Yeah.
and she knows what it means.
Thank
My
you.
son grew up there and he became one hell of a baseball player,
Oh, good.
so. Along with
thank
some
you.
other ones who went on to be as pro players. The Barlin boys are just shocked me. They'd seen them little guys coming in and
Yeah.
they're both in the majors now. It's amazing to
Oh.
see that. And they're still the nicest young people you'd ever want to meet, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care of
you
yourself.
all.
Thanks, everybody. All right.
Next item up is the hazardous building located at 2718 16th Avenue, and we have Fire Chief Mallinger here
That
to
is
update
the
us on that.
biggest
Tippy
attraction
House.
in the city of North St. Paul.
It is.
I get called from people all over the Twin Cities area asking about that.
Are we sure we want to do something about it then? It's a landmark.
Yeah, we might.
It's our landmark now.
Leaning Tower.
Is the Wicked Witch underneath there?
There we go.
Hey there, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, Council.
Nice to see
Hi,
you.
Chief.
Oh, Chief.
Just bringing before you the resolution, worked with Soren's office on the demolition for 2718 16th Avenue. As you're all aware of the situation up there, would you like me to go into any details of where we're at on the structure, how it happened, or?
I think that would
any-
be helpful for context.
So, Sunday of Memorial Weekend, May 28th, the fire department was called at 5 a.m. in the morning from a neighbor that heard the house basically collapse. The house was under construction. It basically had been lifted up and set on cribbing by the property owners. So in this case, the property owners, from my understanding, are working as the contractors as well. Permits were in place for the construction, and they basically had removed the old foundation and a portion of the structure as well, and they were going to rebuild, if you will. So they had it up on the stilts. They had dug out, they had framing in place for their foundation to be poured, and then actually on the Friday before that weekend, our inspectors from Inspect were out to approve the footings and look at those, and then the collapse happened. So a little bit about the owners on this side of things. They currently purchased the house in March to remodel it and then move their family into it. So obviously, we get called, we responded. Really the only hazard, I shouldn't say only hazard, but obviously a house, there was nobody in it, thankfully. It's not habitable. They weren't living in it at that time. 5 in the morning, nobody else was around. We just had utilities to be concerned about, the gas lines and the electric lines that were discontinued that morning. Contacted the property owners right away, along with our building official, to let them know. The property owners did meet us out on site, and we went in great detail over with them, along with our police department sergeant and myself, just kind of looking over the site and trying to make our best determination of what had happened. But obviously, we are not structural engineers, but asked our property owners to turn it over to their insurance for further investigation, and really for him to follow up on that. They were, at that point, because of the damage that they saw, talking of demolishing the property. So really, at this point, I have been working in the aspect of having conversations with the property owners and checking in with them. And the first week, it was really more or less a waiting game for their insurance to come out and do an inspection of the site. And the second week, waiting for them to respond back, which we really didn't receive, or the property owners didn't receive any notification. Myself and our building official, Scott Qualley from Minspect, we drafted up a letter and sent it out to the property owners because, one, we were concerned about the safety of other people getting onto the property, so we requested the fence be installed, a 6-foot safety fence around the perimeter. And additionally, off of city code and fire code, that one, we remove the hazard from the site, so whether that be a repair or demolishing, that it be done immediately. They forwarded it on to their insurance, and with no date given by them or decision made, I also asked for their claims adjuster so that I could reach out directly to him and see where they were moving on it. And really, the claims adjuster just advised me that this is a private matter and I would have to deal with the property owners regarding, and that they were investigating it. So in the city's best interests, we felt, since this is kind of where we're at with a timeline of things, even though I do believe it is the owner's intent to eventually tear this down, we're kind of in a waiting game. And my concern is how long that waiting game would really be. And knowing, one, tonight's council meeting, the next one we're going to have is a month from now because of July 4th. So that puts us 30 days behind. And really, this whole process, maybe if Soren, you want to walk through the process, it is
an extended timeline, if you will.
It is. So we are asking the council to adopt the resolution declaring that the home is hazardous. And what that allows us to do is start the process. They still have time to respond. They'll have 30 days to correct it. Administratively, Jason can give them more time if we feel that, progress is being made in that regards. But after that 30 days, we then file it with the court. We have to get a court hearing. We have to actually have that hearing and have the judge grant our request for relief. Because it is a severe form of relief. We're asking to go onto someone's property and tear their home down, and then bill them for it. So that is the nature of the request. That can, once filed, take up to 90 to 120 days. What I would say is, which is pretty quick in the court system. We have, with some backlogs and just recovering from COVID, seen those hearings take a little bit longer. So doing it now at least affords us the opportunity to get the system started. We aren't obligated to follow through on it if we gain voluntary compliance, which is what we want. But I do think it's necessary to get it going anyway.
I agree 100%. So that's just where we're at, looking for, I definitely want voluntary compliance. I'm trying to stay in contact with them, and I really feel that's what they want. But as difficult as it is for the neighbors in that area, having to deal with the cars coming down the road and having that there, I understand that. But we have to go through the proper steps to, one, protect ourselves and to potentially take this down if needed, and it's going to be some time. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
Are the property owners aware of this resolution?
I'm not sure. I know we're not obligated to notify them of this resolution. I hadn't talked about them. We basically got this together last Friday, and unfortunately haven't had the opportunity to speak to them yet, but I would be talking to them directly.
They will be personally served with this.
Is it 30 days from the day they're served or 30 days from today?
So once it's signed,
Yep.
Sorry.
We've traditionally given them 30 days from notice, which is when they're served.
Were they able to get that fence up?
Yes. So my instructions were a 6-foot chain link safety fence around the entire perimeter. They did use the part of the fence that was already in place, a wood fence, 6-foot fence on the Dairy Queen side. And because of some grading and sloping issues, it doesn't go all the way to the ground. So they put up the chain link fence across the front and down the side, but not all the way to the back. So I've asked them to just kind of finalize. I mean, from the front, it looks like it's around the entire perimeter, but it's not. But they did put the fence up at our request.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Well,
So the motion before you is to approve the resolution ordering repair or removal of the hazardous conditions.
anybody want to propose
Pardon?
that motion? Put that motion forward?
So moved.
So move, Councilmember Cole.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason.
We have one more we added on to the bottom.
Yes, item D, which was E in the consent agenda, is resolution approving a PUD amendment for the Lilly redevelopment project.
Thanks for hanging around, Jim.
Your last.
I read the contract and everything looks exactly as requested. Or the agreement, not the contract, sorry.
I was the one that pulled this. I just had one quick question. I just got to find it now, sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
On page... There we go. The developer may also submit revised development plans for city review, requesting to substitute residential units for that portion of the project. Does that leave them designated as work-live units? So if a commercial place wanted to go in there later, there would be no need to come before the city council to have it be a work unit?
The two uses in the building as now proposed are residential and live work. So there is two uses in the building. Unless we come to a point where he literally cannot fill any of those first floor live work units, then they could potentially become residential uses. At no point would the city say you cannot have or commercial because it's in a commercial district.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that if it did happen to get rented as residential, later down the road, it could still be rented as a work unit without any action by us as a city council.
Correct.
With that answer, then I now move to accept the item I pulled.
Second?
I'm holding 1 second. Can I ask a question to Jim while we're here? That question, come on up, Jim, if you don't mind. Just the question that John brought up with handicap accessible for those front units that are live work. Is there
There will be an accessible route to those dwelling units. There's parking on the north side. And then there's a corridor that's on the back of those dwelling units that'll all have ramps and access to the back of those units.
So they are ADA.
So they are ADA
Okay,
compliant.
that was the question
And
John
the other,
had.
he's right, he's very astute looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
the plans. The sidewalk does, the grade changes for the sidewalk.
Okay.
So on the east side, very east unit, the sidewalk is flat into the unit, and as you go towards the west, the sidewalk falls, so we had to create a few steps, and I think it's probably on the most westerly side, I think it's 4 steps, 3 or 4 steps at that, so.
But they do have.
And then we actually set down the main lobby side even further, the floor is shifted down, because the grade keeps going down in our main amenity area where the front of the house is.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but they're all accessible.
Thank you. How about the parking questions did we lose handicap for parking that he had for that? Are we up to code with ADA?
Yes, we are up to code, and what happened is we lost.
You lost two regular spots to comply with the ADA requirements, so that was a condition
I
of
just
the
want to make
original
sure we got
approval.
John here, so the question's answered. So we got rid of 2 regular.
Elaine.
Well, that's fine. You're here for her. So we got the 2 parking spots that we got rid of that were regular to match the ADA, and we have handicap accessible for the, perfect. All right, then we might as well get it done while we're here, right?
That's great.
Thanks, appreciate it, Jim. All right, now we'll do the.
I think you'll have a nice
thing.
story on, if it's Fox 9 that the cameras.
Oh, Fox 9? Well, I hope they got my good side. Not all the chins. They're 11 too, huh? Can you doctor that film while you're there? Yeah, I appreciate it.
Getting glamour shots.
That's right. So now we move forward to that?
Nope, you got to vote.
Oh, I know, that's what I'm saying, we move for the vote.
Yep.
All right? Do I have a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
So move, Councilmember Swear.
Second?
Second, Councilmember Kroll. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
You had nothing else going on tonight.
Go hit a few balls at the batting cages as you leave. Yeah. All right, reports. Thanks. Yep.
Thank you. Next item up is reports from city manager and departments. So, as you know, the fire department's been working on the code compliance on our Tippy house. Public Works is updated on the downtown project. That's going very well. They're getting close to finishing up with the storm sewer, and then moving on for the subgrade for the road to build that up and then move forward. So it's been moving along well because they haven't had any delays due to the weather with the dry weather that we've been having. And they're still working with their insurance company on hail damage that we have seen. We are, I think, $300 and some into our $50,000 amount that we have to pay before the insurance kicks in. So, and I think that bill is going to be well over $50,000. So more to come on that as they start planning the roof replacements on buildings that have shingled roofs. Electric department's been working still up at Silver Lake, trying to get those new lights in. Been moving along with that, and moving along with the Lily Billy building project. We had a bore contractor in here 2 weeks ago. They were here for about a week, got all the piping in, and now they're working on the wire and getting equipment in place. Actually, still waiting on some of the material that everything's so backlogged still. Park and outdoor space survey. The City of North St. Paul encourages all residents to participate in our park and open space survey. You can find the link online at northstpaul.org/park survey, or pick up a paper copy at City Hall. The Community Development Department and Park and Recreation Commissions are seeking residents' input as they work on future park plans. You can register your block party for the National Night Out coming up in August. The city, again, will host National Night Out activities on Tuesday, August 1st. The registration form for the neighborhood block parties is now open and can be found at northstpaul.org. In addition to the neighborhood gatherings, the city will also host an open house on Tuesday, August 1st from 5 to 7 in the Fire Apparatus Bay. And then we'll have a ribbon cutting coming up for North St. Paul Business Association, along with the city. We'll host ribbon cutting to officially welcome Hang Time Board Shop and Sweet Candy Store on Thursday, July 6th at 5:30 p.m. Please come out and see us. And that's all I have.
Good. I'm looking forward to those. Both those, I was able to see them at the car show. Okay, next, reports from council, commission, committees. Any, council member Norby?
The Planning Commission next meeting is coming up on July 6th.
All right.
I was unable to attend the arts and culture meeting, but they had discussed the budget, and they're going to continue doing that in the next meeting. And then they had some updates around their projects. My understanding is the utility box wraps have been ordered. And then the next meeting is July 5th at 6:30 here in the chambers.
Councilmember Schwer.
Parks and Recreation meeting is next Wednesday in council chambers. And I want to commend everyone with the city and the Touch Truck Night. Went to the car show that evening, and it was lovely. We had great representation of both the police department, the fire department, and all of Public Works, as well as Brandy was there and Carrie was there handing out our energy savings bags. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cole.
There was not an EDA meeting in the month of June. Is there one in July? If there is, it's July 11th at 3 o'clock here in Chambers. We're having it? Okay.
Sounds good. General business. Councilmember Norby.
Just would like to wish everyone a happy Pride Month, and since there is no meeting on the 4th of July, wish everyone a wonderful Independence Day.
Councilmember Wong.
Cole again.
Twice in a night.
You need to have a test to be a driver. Maybe you should need a test to be a mayor. Wherever you are, just talk.
Oh my gosh.
I have nothing.
You put me through all that.
No, I do have something.
Okay, that was good.
So I got an email from a resident, and I had talked to Brian about this, and it also went to Chief Babenroth as well. And her thought was, how does a community look at an ordinance around gun locks? So that was something that she had talked about. I think her job is at a healthcare clinic, and that's something they look at is death by firearms. And so She's very passionate about that. So just something for us to consider. I know the state provides free locks, and I know Chief has picked up some as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Good, nothing.
Nicole?
A couple business topics. One, do we need a gavel in, gavel out meeting shortly after July 4th to pay bills? Or do you now have the ability to pay bills and not have council approval?
We can do that.
Okay. Perfect. And then National Night Out and our August meeting fall on the same date. Are we going to have a council meeting prior to the start of National Night Out, or are we going to move the meeting?
I believe it was going to be canceled. If you have a wish to do one earlier.
Cancel works.
Okay. So yes, there will be a gap of a month between
Okay.
now and the next one, and then also the next one
Wow.
in August.
Okay.
Summer hours. All right. I have a couple items. Was a great car show turnout last week. Was just absolutely beautiful weather, and there were so many people there. They were all over. I was able to see our great law enforcement in action. There was a man with dementia that actually got away and got up to the car show, and our didn't have a license anymore. Our police officers worked with him, kept him calm, called his significant other to come pick him up, and it's just how gentle they were and how they treated him and respected him was really, very good to see. And I was very impressed by how that went, because it wasn't any in trouble. It was, we just want to make sure you're safe. Got a hold of somebody that could help him. So I really, really commend the officer for that. I tried to look on the picture because I couldn't remember his name, but they're all clean shaven there, and he had a stubble, so I don't know who it is. But whoever it was, I appreciate what he did. So the picture didn't help me back there. Also, for the next meeting, we're going to be having a closed-door review with our city manager. We have a brand-new city council. So with the new city council and newer manager and some of the other departments, we're going to have a meeting for 6 months, see how we're doing. We're actually going to be bringing in a facilitator coach to help us to be able to understand with so many new people. So that will be happening on the next meeting. July 18th, is it? Something like that, or 20th? I think it's 20th. 18th, okay. July 18th, we'll be doing that. Anything else I need to say about that? So, anything else? If not, I'll call for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you. Councilmember Wong? Second? Why do you people do this to me?
Second?
Second, Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hey, you.
Oh.
I said.